Over the past 50 years, Climatech has grown and kept pace with the ever-changing HVAC industry, providing our customers with the best knowledge on the most innovative systems and services.
Serving Lorain and western Cuyahoga counties, Climatech is a full-service heating, air conditioning, and ventilation company. A third-generation, family-owned and operated company providing the most up-to-date level of service and installation with the best quality products.
Today, your comfort demands customized solutions utilizing best industry practice combined with high-quality, reliable products that protect you and your home.
The HVAC industry will never stand still. It's a commitment to the environment that we learn, train, and produce next-level efficient products and services.
Partnering with Green Sky Financing and our dedicated customer care software allows us to give you the comfort that you need in your home.
Smart products, smart technicians, and dedication to details drive us to deliver highly effective products into your home today and into the future.
Well, it's week 20 now of the Climatech Inc. NFL Prediction Show, and it is the divisional round. The matchups here now are thrilling. They're exciting. It all worked out in ways that we somewhat expected, but at the same time, we did miss a few picks last week. Of course, Vince and I last week, we picked identical. The two games we missed on, Chargers, Jags, Vikings, Giants. That was it. And I'll tell you what, Vince, before we jump into this week, the Chargers, a team that we talked about has so much talent, so much ability. And we said it. We said if it comes down to the end and maybe coaching, and we felt like Brandon Staley and that group could possibly blow it. But I think when you and I were talking about it, we were thinking maybe a 10-point lead, maybe a 7-point lead. 27 points. Were we thinking 27 points? No, there's no chance in this world. The second half was just bad for them. Trevor Lawrence and the Jags played well. Credit to them. But, yeah, I mean, that is frustrating for the Chargers.
Yeah, and first of all, welcome back to week 20, everybody. Thank you again for coming back. But it's crazy because when we talked about that coaching decision, my thought is that they would actually be trailing, right, and go for it on a crazy fourth down with still 10 minutes to go, or go for a touchdown when all they would need is a field goal to tie a game and send it overtime. Like, I expected them to do something stupid. I didn't expect that. Right? I mean, who's going to expect that? 27 points is just almost unheard of. It happened once when I was a little kid with the Oilers in Buffalo. That's a famous game. Ironically enough, Frank Wright, who was the former coach of the Colts, was the quarterback in that game for Buffalo. But I never expected this to happen. Joey Bosa, phenomenal talent. You don't expect him to lose his mind like he did. Just all of it, right? So total meltdown by the Chargers. I was about to text you. I think this might be it for Staley. You actually beat me to the punch. I got your text as I was going to send you one about Staley. Just, I don't know what to think anymore because this is a very talented team. They made a lot of stupid decisions down the road last year. And ironically enough, I'd have to go back and look. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a game against Jacksonville that cost them the playoffs last year. So here they are again right? I'm pretty sure I'm right?
Yeah, you're correct. And they already got rid of their offensive coordinator. So
unbelievable. I don't even think he was the problem, quite frankly. So, I'm watching this fourth quarter of this game, and they're playing such light coverage. I don't know what they were doing. But regardless, we're here to pick 4 games this week. It's going to be interesting. Done a lot of research on this one, Cole. Quite interesting last year. Both number 1 seeds lost in their first and only playoff game last year. That was Green Bay and Tennessee being knocked out. It's happened a ton of times over the last decade where at least number 1 seed gets knocked out. We have a rematch of Buffalo and Cincinnati, which obviously the Damar Hamlin thing is going to be on everybody's mind. So you have that game to play out. You just have so many different things going on. A seasoned coach again, like Doug Peterson, a Super Bowl winning coach, now against Andy Reid, another Super Bowl winning coach of the Chiefs. The Chiefs are unbelievable when they come off a bye. Andy Reid's record off of a bye week is astonishingly good. So much to consider. We talked about the Giants last week. Well, like I said, in my lifetime, I just turned 41. I've seen them win 4 Super Bowls in 4 different decades. Just so many fun things. I love this time of year. It's ironic, though, because I'm sitting behind all baseball stuff, or all in front of all baseball stuff. But I figured playoffs, I'll switch rooms this one week and we'll talk some football. And I can't stop smiling, Max. I love this time of year.
Well, you said the Giants are due, and somehow they managed to advance. We talked about them being not that strong of a team. Dave will obviously turn them around. Daniel Jones is playing the best he's ever played. They have a lot of good things going for them, but we talked about the weakness of their schedule during the regular season. Well, they went up against the biggest frauds in the Vikings, and we've called them frauds throughout the whole regular season. But you and I both picked the Vikings because we felt like they're at home. They're going to win at least one, even if it's a close game. They pulled out, I think it was 11 victories that they had that were one-score games. So it just seemed like it would line up for the Vikings, and they didn't get it done against the Giants. So now we've got a Giants game we're going to talk about here in just a moment. And the whole NFC it's the 49ers and the NFC East, which is so fascinating. But let's jump to the first game here, Vince. And first, our records, because we picked the same amount of games. I'm still down one. You have a score of 176, 102. I'm at 175 and 103. So Saturday, middle of the afternoon at 4:30, the Jacksonville Jaguars travel to Kansas City to play against the number 1 seed in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm going to start this one off by saying, as much as I like what Jacksonville did in the second half, and I'd love to see Jacksonville go on to win this game. I think Doug Peterson has a nice young group, and they're really coming into form, and you and I have already talked about it early on before we even get to the draft and free agency and everything. The Jags are my favorite to win the division next season in their division again, with what they're piecing together right now. But they don't have enough to get by this Chiefs team. This Chiefs team, they're coming off of a bye week. They had time to prep and get to watch film. They got to watch the Chargers game probably from the comfort of their couches, their chairs, from their own homes. And I think the Chiefs, they get it done. I actually think it would be a decently high-scoring game. I see the Chiefs needing to put up nearly 30 points, because I don't think the Chiefs' defense is all that great. I think they're 16th in the league in scoring. They're a middle-of-the-pack defense. They're good enough. They're based on offense, and I think the Jaguars have the offense rolling enough that it'll be a higher-scoring game. But give me Kansas City in this.
Yeah, Kansas City has something to prove here without Tyreek Hill. Excuse me. I think they badly want to win at least get to the Super Bowl without Tyreek Hill too. They're going to come out guns a-blazing. Andy Reid off a bye. Not too much more to say here. I agree with you where Jacksonville will probably be the best team next year in that AFC South. Not that that's much of a trophy. We'll see what the Colts do at quarterback, what they have at coach, and I like the Colts. I'm a glutton for punishment. I can't help it. But we'll see how that plays out. As far as this week goes, Kansas City, to me, out of the 4 games, is the only safe pick. I don't think a lot of people will disagree with that, and we'll talk about the other 3 games here in a second. But if somebody said you have to make sure you win 1 game this weekend, I think that's also the biggest spread, maybe the safest pick. Plus, I'll hedge the bet, and I'll say this too, that as long as Kansas City wins, we are in for an unbelievable AFC Championship game, no matter who they play. We all remember last year's playoffs against Buffalo, the instant classic, one of the greatest football games I've ever seen. And clearly against Cincinnati in the NFC Championship, another amazing game in which Cincinnati won on a walk-off. So Kansas City just has to do their part. And no matter who wins between Buffalo and Cincinnati, we are in Cole. Championship weekend is going to be incredible in the AFC slate.
Well, and remember, if Buffalo wins and Kansas City wins, it's neutral site in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz. So that's fascinating as well. And that could be a rematch of the game that really caused the change of the overtime rules. Yeah. Because last season, what happened, and that it came down really to the coin toss, and then that's how the Chiefs won, when the Bills and Chiefs kept going back and forth. So that changed the playoff overtime rules. So regardless of what happens, we're going to have some fun matchups really on the AFC side when it comes to the AFC Championship.
Yeah, and I gotta say this one last thing. I gotta give my man Cole McDaniel some credit. He called it. So fans, take you behind the show like we do to sometimes. Last year in that game between Buffalo and Kansas City, the second it was over, and I mean within 10 seconds, had a text message on my phone from Cole McDaniel saying the overtime rule is stupid and it will be changed. This game will change the rule. Within 24 hours, everybody else is on that bandwagon. But I got to give it to my man Cole. He called that would change things, and it did.
Yeah, we've known it was stupid for years, but it really didn't. It didn't usually affect the postseason.
We had talked about it so many times. So many times we had talked about it.
Everybody knew it was stupid, but it was a regular season thing. And then finally, when it reared its ugly head in the postseason, that's when it finally did it. The league kept everything the same in the regular season because the regular season doesn't matter quite that much. I don't think they want to extend games quite as long. They're okay with it possibly even resulting in a tie at worst. But in the playoffs, you have to figure out the rules a little bit better, and that's why they changed it. So there you have it. You and I are both on the same side there for the Chiefs. We talked about possibilities coming up, but we'll get back to the AFC here in just a moment. Let's flip over to the NFC. We talked about there are 3 NFC East teams in the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this is the matchup between 2 NFC East teams. Saturday at 8:15, the Philadelphia Eagles were the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're coming off of a bye. Started slumping really a little bit at the end of the year when Jalen Hurts wasn't healthy. Now he's had time to recover, rest up a little bit, but you got to feel good about their backup situation with Gardner Minshew going up against a Giants team that, Vince said it last week, the Giants, they always get something in a decade, it feels like. So are they due, perhaps? Vince, are the Giants going to get this done? Are they due a Super Bowl this year?
So many times in the history of the NFL playoffs since they've expanded to 7 teams, multiple years ago. And even before that, when it was just, I think, 6 and they had the 2 teams that have a bye and so on and so on. So many times, fellas, Saturday night, the number 1 seed loses. Saturday night, it never fails. On a Saturday night, you see that number 1 team lose. It's the weirdest thing that continues to happen year after year. This is the year it stops, though. Going with Philadelphia, I feel because of this reason, first of all, they're rested, okay? The Giants are coming off this big, tremendous high. So good for the Giants. You've looked at the last couple of Eli Manning Super Bowls. The Giants did all of that on the road. So it's a culture, right? But those are different players, different coaches. Tom Coughlin, all those guys are long gone. It's just the name on the helmet at this point. That being said, it has to come down to the better team. I think about that Christmas Eve game a lot against Dallas when Philadelphia barely lost. They came back, back and forth all game long with Gardner Minshew. If Jalen Hurts is healthy, this to me could be his breakout performance. We look back to last year. I don't know how many stories I've told on this show where I could say I was either texting with Cole or Cole was 3 feet away from me. This time around, he was 3 feet away from me. We were watching the game together last year. First round of the playoffs when the Philadelphia Eagles got absolutely smoked. I think that's still on their brain. They're going to want to come out. They don't want it to happen 2 years in a row, let alone this year as a 1 seed. With that being the case, I am not feeling comfortable with this pick, but I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles here as well, 31-17. I think the Eagles, they're too balanced. They have a good defense. I mean, really from the front 7 to the back end and the secondary, I think they're just a balanced roster defensively. They're good really at every level. I wouldn't say they're great statistically. They're probably great this season. But I think they're really solid. They're strong. They don't have many gaps. And I think that's key. And one of the reasons why they had such a great season and they're the number 1 seed. Now, offensively, they're a high-powered offense this year. They got things going with Hurts in his legs, and bringing in A.J. Brown to pair with Devontae Smith was huge. Miles Sanders, who did nothing last season, has had a good year. Overall, the roster's been pretty complete. I still say, aside from A.J. Brown and maybe a couple guys here or there, like I said, I just don't see many guys where it's like they pop off the screen. It's like, wow, that guy's a star.
Yep.
But I think overall they are so well-rounded that they should be able to get by the Giants here, because the Giants, they're more based on a star, Saquon Barkley. If you shut down Saquon Barkley, I don't think Daniel Jones has enough weapons at wide receiver to be able to really move that football. I think their offense is their weakness for the Giants, and I think if the Eagles can slow them down, and maybe they might not stop them fully, but let's say they slow them down enough, and I think that's actually easier to do against this Giants team than anybody else here in the playoffs. You're the Eagles. You should be able to put up 21 points easily in this game, and I really don't see the Giants having an easy time putting up more than 20, 21 points in this game. So I think the Eagles, if they come out and play a well-rounded, balanced game, they should take care of business pretty handily. I think the Giants might make it interesting at times just because it's a division game, playoffs, more at stake. So it might actually appear closer on the scoreboard than what actually happens on the field. But I'm looking forward to that game just because I'm interested to see what the Eagles actually do. Will they kick it into high gear again, or will there still be just a little bit of a notch or two down from what we saw in week 13 and 12 and 11 and, when we were really in the heart of the season rather than the later stages? That's the big question.
Yeah. And, to me, I'm fascinated by this because two things. One, if just to go back super quickly, if Jacksonville does win, by the way, the comparisons are going to begin between Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Burrow got to the Super Bowl in his second year with a team that was horrible that he took to the Super Bowl. Trevor Lawrence took this team that was horrible to a Super Bowl. So there's going to be a million different things there. I forgot to mention that. But real quick, back to this game. This is something too, because we know a lot of Cleveland Browns fans watch this show, and we thank you for that. The coach of the Giants, Brian Daboll, this is a guy who has interviewed for the Browns head coaching job on 4 different occasions, and they've always gone with somebody else. Yeah. There's something to learn from this. Maybe the guy knew what he was doing all this time. Also, it builds a blueprint, whether the Giants win this game or not. And now that I know we're both picking Philadelphia, I'm just being honest with you, I'm going to be rooting really hard for the Giants because I love the Giants. So, and I can't stand Philadelphia, just my own personal preferences there. But if the Giants win this game, they're really starting to build a blueprint of what you could do with a young growing quarterback, a tremendous running back, and a well-coached, motivated, disciplined team. This was a team that was towards the top of the division most of the year until injuries kind of jumped up and bit them right around Thanksgiving time. They lost a couple in a row. But again, this Giants team has proven they could win big games and tight games all season long. Do we think they're going to do it this week? We have to make a pick. We both picked Philadelphia. But I'm telling you right now, if the Giants win this game, I want to be the least bit shocked.
Yeah, no, and Daniel Jones has had a good season. He's really improved and stepped up, but I still think he's not the guy there in New York. I still think that they can make an improvement at quarterback. But in order to do so at the same time, I think they have good things on defense. They have Saquon Barkley. I still think they need to add some better wide receiver pieces. But how wild would it be if we might have seen Tom Brady play his last game for Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Imagine him with the New York Giants, the team that beat him twice with the Patriots. That would be so interesting to see him be there. Who knows? There could be a lot of teams out there, but I still think that would be maybe a step up in the short term compared to what you have in Daniel Jones.
It could be. And also look at Saquon Barkley and Josh Allen possibly playing against each other in the Super Bowl. Yeah. 2 guys the Browns could have had in the same flipping draft, which I wanted badly. Me and Cole, we didn't know each other at that time. We didn't. But that was, if you would have known me, Cole, I was screaming from the rooftops. Barkley won, Allen, I think we had 6 traded up and took Ward at 4 or something like that. But I was screaming from the rooftops. Not that I don't like Denzel Ward or Nick Chubb, but I'm sorry. I would have took the Allen Barkley combination over the Ward Chubb combination any day of the week.
Yep. Absolutely.
Story for another day.
So we look to Sunday at 3:00, and this is the game that didn't happen a few weeks ago. It started, and we had the Damar Hamlin situation. And, thankfully, we've continually been getting good, nice updates on him as he got out of the hospital in Cincinnati, and then he checked into Buffalo, and then he was out of the hospital and seems to be really on the up and up, on the mend, which is good. Hopefully, not only just happy to have him here, hopefully he continues to recover well, gets back to normal life, and he's then going to have a big decision ahead of him. Does he want to return to football in the future, which is possible? I mean, plenty of players return to their sports after they've done it. Of course, it's a rare thing that happens to even be in this situation, but I've seen it with Christian Eriksen playing in the Premier League now for Manchester United. I mean, he plays 80 plus, almost 90 minutes about every match. Different sport, but certainly a possibility. We'll see what happens, but happy to have him around. But as we finally get to the game that didn't happen at Paycor Stadium, now it's going to be Orchard Park in Buffalo as the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals play each other, and it's the battle of Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, and a huge test. This is going to be a fun one. This is one of those situations where, like I said, if the Bengals advance, let's say the Chiefs beat the Jaguars, which you and I both believe there, then it could be that rematch of the Bengals and Chiefs, or, Bills win, then it easily could be, they're the Bills Chiefs, the game that changed the rules. Hey, if the Jags pull off the upset, then we got something different to talk about, but most likely it will be Kansas City. Yeah. And like I said, we're going to get one of these two teams. And I'm going to say that the funny thing is that time that game got canceled and didn't even happen, you picked the Bills.
Yep.
I picked the Bengals because I felt like the Bengals at home that week, it just felt like Cincinnati was going to win the game. But previously, coming into the season, I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. I'm sticking with that. I think Buffalo, they win this game at home. They advance. It's going to be a close, tough battle, but I just think Buffalo gets it done.
This is the hardest pick I've made all season. I'm just going to hedge my bet by saying that I did not know who I was picking until I drove home today. And I got to shout out Dustin Fox. He was talking about it a little bit about how if Lamar Jackson would have played in that game last week against Cincinnati, the Bengals probably would have lost, maybe by multiple touchdowns on Sunday night, right? Or whatever that was, early Sunday evening, regardless. No, Sunday night. But that game, to me, was almost like the Bengals were looking past Baltimore. Same with Buffalo. I feel like Buffalo, in a way, lost their concentration. There were some stupid penalties there, some shoving matches. Josh Allen made some uncharacteristic mistakes, right? I feel in a lot of ways, Buffalo was looking past Miami. They almost got snake bit. Both teams survive. Both teams are equally talented. Both teams have running backs and running games that are getting better, but I still would say far from elite. I think a couple years down the road, Buffalo has the 1-2 combination at running back where they're going to be pretty damn good with Cook and Singletary. The problem to me is this, right? Joe Burrow has shown us he can win the big game. Josh Allen hasn't. Josh Allen has that chip on his shoulder. They get close, and they can't get over that hump. 2 years ago, I don't remember if it was the COVID year or not. Yeah, I think it was like the COVID year. Yeah, it was the COVID year. 2 years ago, Buffalo dominates all season long. It's the NFC Championship game with Josh Allen. A lot of the same players they have right now. Played conservative. Played ridiculously conservative. It was a boring game. Kansas City won, ends up going to the Super Bowl and plays Tampa Bay. I think a lot of those memories are still with those guys. My prayers and heart and condolences, everything to Damar Hamlin and his family. But take that out. Anybody who's looking for the Disney movie when it comes to Buffalo, that has nothing to do with anything right now. Like Cole said, it's a great story, but at the end of the day, the best football team is going to win this game from top to bottom. With that being said, Cincinnati has proven they can do a couple of things. Their kicker has proven he can make a game-winning kick in the playoffs. Their quarterback, Joe Burrow, has proven he could win a playoff game, a big playoff game, a bigger playoff game, and then almost won the damn Super Bowl. Josh Allen hasn't done that yet. It's Josh Allen's time. Cole said in the beginning of the season he thought Buffalo was going to win the Super Bowl. I said in the beginning of the season I thought Buffalo was going to at least reach the Super Bowl. Like Cole, I'm stubborn, and I'm going to stick with it. My heart tells me Cincinnati. There's a part of my brain that tells me Cincinnati. But as I said, heard Dustin Fox break it down today. Give him another shout out. Everything he said makes sense. Going to go with Buffalo here. That also being said, if this game occurs next week between Buffalo and Kansas City, and it's on turf in Atlanta, it's going to be really hard not to pick Buffalo again. Don't want to give away that pick just yet because we're going to see there's injuries. There's all kinds of stuff that could happen this weekend.
Yeah.
Going to go with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. I mean, regardless of what matchups in the AFC we get, it's going to be a fun combination. I think I really would have loved to see the Chargers get by the Jags because I think you'd have the four most talented teams in the AFC together. But I think Jacksonville and how Trevor Lawrence is coming into his own, it's not a bad consolation to the Chargers, I guess. So it's a fun four teams. Yeah, and we could
I was
certainly
have the Chargers, by the way. And I wonder if you were wondering, but if it would have happened, I was dead set on picking the Chargers.
I knew you were. So I was going to be going with the Chiefs. Because I have to make a game up. So
I know. But like I wanted that game so badly because me and you love that matchup. We've talked about it to death. It would have been so much fun, but it is what it is.
Well, at this point, all the picks have been the same, but I'm going to have you go to the NFC here first. I would assume we're going to be on the same page here once again. The Dallas Cowboys visiting the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, I think we initially expected when we picked it, it would have been San Francisco and the Minnesota Vikings matching up of how we had it set up, how we picked the games. So when I'm actually in this group that did picks through the playoffs, and so I had it where San Francisco would get it to the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I felt like it was very straightforward with the Minnesota Vikings being their opponent. Now things get a little more interesting with the Dallas Cowboys, I would say for sure. They finally got over the hump of winning, but it's the Cowboys in the playoffs. Vince, are you going with the Niners here?
No. So I said this last week. Go back and watch the show, fans. I say it on the record, on the recording. I'm going to say it again. The Dallas Cowboys, again, hedge my bet because who knows what happens this weekend with injuries. They're going to the Super Bowl this year. They're representing the NFC in the Super Bowl. Here, and again, everything can change in a week, so don't quote me on that just yet. But they got over the hump last night, right? You beat a legend. Listen, Tampa Bay stunk and shouldn't have been in the playoffs to begin with. If it was up to me, there wouldn't be any divisions. You'd have 15 AFC teams, 15 NFC teams, and the top 6 would go to the playoffs. Nobody would get a bye, or somebody would have to get a bye. But regardless, it would work itself out. Top 2 teams could get a bye again. Anyways, Dallas Cowboys are the best team in the NFC. It's when they allow themselves to be, right? Driving home again, the most magical things happen when I'm in my car driving home from something. I'm driving home again, listening to the Monday Night broadcast. And I forget the guy's name, so I apologize. But whoever their pregame host was, he was saying that he spoke with Mike McCarthy. He spoke too with one of the defensive backs coaches of Dallas. And Dallas needs to get through the ebbs and flows of that game. When they make a mistake, get right past it. How do we handle this? Okay. Look at it this year. Look at last year as well with Dallas and San Francisco. Dak Prescott is better than Brock Purdy. Boy, I'm drawing a blank right now. CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is better, in my opinion, than Deebo Samuel. Their best threats are better. Now, San Francisco has the better defense. San Francisco has McCarthy. McCaffrey. They have McCaffrey. They have better talent in certain areas, but as a team, okay, I think this needs to be the proving point for Dallas. I've probably said this on this show at least 100 times over the years. Mike McCarthy has something to prove. He wants to do it without Aaron Rodgers. Dak Prescott has something to prove. He wants to show you that he can do it. They have 2 running backs who can run the ball. Tony Pollard, to me, is way underrated. I think Zeke needs to go in the offseason, and Tony needs to be your number one man. So I think Dallas is the better team. I truly do. It's a matter of, like that pregame host said when I was driving home, will they allow themselves to be the better team? I feel Dallas is. One last thing I want to say before I throw this over to Cole. I love this matchup. This reminds me of being a little kid. I've said it numerous times. Growing up in the 90s, this was the matchup, my man. Cowboys, Niners. It was huge. They met in the NFC Championship game 3 years in a row. All 3 games were incredible. And you knew, quite frankly, no offense to the Buffalo Bills and then the San Diego Chargers, but you knew whoever won that game between the two was going to win the Super Bowl. There was just no stopping either one of those teams. That was the Super Bowl. I feel like they both could get back to that. Going with the Cowboys, feel confident with the pick.
Well, I need to make up a game, and I kept that in mind as I was making these picks, and wasn't exactly sure of where you'd go here, but my gut instinct was we were going to end up picking the same games, and we did. I picked the Dallas Cowboys.
Go another week.
I wish I could go back and change this because in some ways I'm a little bit split. I don't think I made a final decision on this game until this afternoon, where I really felt like I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I really wanted to see the Niners actually make a run and even see Brock Purdy lead them to getting to the Super Bowl. I would rather root for the Niners than the Cowboys. That being said, here's how I feel about these teams. Brock Purdy's been incredible filling in the way Shanahan's systems run, and they lean heavily on McCaffrey, and I think their line's good. And, you can get the football to Debo in a variety of ways, and same with Ayuk. And I think all of that adds to where it takes pressure off of Brock Purdy, and then he's done what he's needed to do and showed his mobility. And I would say, and as we're getting to where I'm evaluating prospects right now, I think Brock Purdy and Stetson Bennett are very similar quarterbacks. Of course, Stetson Bennett just won the national championship with Georgia, where, undersized, maybe people don't look at him as the greatest prospect. Stetson Bennett's probably going to be a late round draft pick, but both are actually surprisingly shifty and quick and mobile guys. But Brock Purdy's done a good job, and San Francisco's defense is really well-rounded, and we know that they have the ability to pressure with their defensive ends and that defensive line in general. The thing with Dallas is a go for broke type of a defense. It's either we're going to get sacks and fumbles or an interception, or we're going to give up 400 yards. And
very much so.
We're willing to give up 400 yards to force the turnovers because we know our offense has enough talent and it's good enough that we feel like we could still possibly win games even if we give up 400. It's going to be more difficult, but we're going to go for broke and try to get the turnovers. And that's how they play with Micah Parsons. And I know Trayvon Diggs gets a lot of heat for giving up so much yardage, but he's a guy who gets a lot of interceptions. And I think he's supposed to play that way, and he fits what they want to do. Am I the biggest Diggs fan? No, but is he really good with his ball skills? Yeah, he's maybe the best corner in the league with his ball skills. So I just think Dallas, the way they go for broke and force turnovers and the way they pressure, and when you can take Micah Parsons from linebacker and then you can toss him at D end, have him stand up as a hybrid and rush to the passer, and then go back to linebacker. He's so versatile. I think Micah Parsons gives Brock Purdy a little bit of a headache this upcoming game. And I think there's going to be a little bit more pressure on Purdy than he's had the last few weeks. He's settled in nicely, but I think it's going to be one of those games where Dallas is going to score enough points where it's going to have to go in the hands of Purdy rather than handing it off to McCaffrey or getting the ball to McCaffrey. And that is when Parsons is going to unleash. And I think the Dallas defense actually forces some turnovers. They get some sacks. They rattle the third string quarterback who's filling in. And you finally start to see that chink in the 49ers armor just due to injuries and not having Jimmy G in there instead, Brock Purdy being in. So we're on the same page with the Cowboys winning this one. And, you and I both picked Philadelphia and Dallas. Could be an NFC East showdown in the NFC Championship game.
How much time we got here? Let me put on my spectacles. Okay, we have enough time. Let's play a quick game. I had to take them off because there's a massive glare in this room that I didn't realize we were 5 seconds into the show. All right, so confidence-wise, we see confidence picks all the time, right? Cole, gamblers that do their confidence picks.
Yeah.
I'll give you mine. You give me yours. As we'll start with number 1 as your most confident pick, down to your least confident. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. I'll go first. I'll do all 4. Most confident to least confident. Kansas City. The other 3 games. Kansas City. Dallas, I think. Kansas City, Dallas, Philadelphia, Buffalo.
Okay. Yeah, I would say Kansas City, Philadelphia, Dallas, Buffalo.
Okay, so very similar, just 2 and 3 switch. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm just telling you, like, if we're sitting here next week and me and you both went 1 for 3, I'm not going to be shocked.
No.
And if that's the case, like, but either way, you're right? So if Dallas wins, we're guaranteed an NFC East championship game.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. And like we also said, no matter what, I can't wait. I mean, as long as Kansas City does their part, I don't care who they play. That AFC Championship game is going to be loaded. Cincinnati just picked the wrong year to play Buffalo. I mean, we'll see how it turns out. Cincinnati could easily win that game, but just wild that they're as good as Cincinnati is this year, and I think they're better than they were last year. They're, in my opinion, the 3rd best team in the AFC. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and if we're tossing out confidence things, here's something I am confident about. Regardless of who goes through in the NFC, regardless of who goes through in the AFC, I say no matter who it is in the AFC, they win the Super Bowl.
Jacksonville?
That's just how I feel.
Even if Jacksonville.
Even if Jacksonville goes through, I'm going to say Jacksonville wins the Super Bowl. I feel good about those AFC teams, and I think there's too many issues and chinks in the armor that we talked about last week with those NFC teams, and even Jacksonville, who maybe they don't have quite as much talent or as much experience as some of those other NFC teams. Right now, they're hot. And their defense is playing well, and Lawrence has improved. And we talked about Doug Peterson. I could say the same thing over and over again for the last few weeks because they've been consistent the last few weeks. Despite the 4 turnovers, the 4 interceptions for Lawrence early, I think part of that just had to do with great defense by Asante Samuel jumping routes. Aside from that, I think Jacksonville's on a roll. So no matter who it is in the AFC, I say they win the Super Bowl.
We'll see more of it next week when we have our show next week. But just to give you away a little secret here, I go off of style points sometimes in the playoffs. If Cincinnati would have smoked Baltimore by 2 touchdowns or more, I would have picked Cincinnati. But because they stumbled against a backup quarterback, that's why I picked Buffalo. Just throwing that out there. Like, as much as I could tell you right now that if everything wins the way we said it would, I'm more than likely going Buffalo and Dallas in the Super Bowl. Style points, fans. Let's see what they could do. If the Cowboys win by 1 point and their kicker misses another 2, 3, 4 extra points, then I don't know how I can continue to pick them. Right. Style points. So you ask me right now, I'm going to tell you Buffalo, Dallas, but we'll see where we sit a week from now and how everything looked this coming weekend.
Well, as we wrap this show up, again, last week, actually, I said you could reach out to us not only about sponsors, I said you could reach out to us about who the Browns should hire as the next defensive coordinator. It took a week. Already got a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, and I think that's a really good hire. I think Schwartz, his head coaching career is probably over at this point, didn't have the greatest record as a head coach, but has the experience. A good defensive coordinator, I think he's going to elevate that defense to another level, but there's still roster moves that need to be made. But I think in general, as long as they can put a couple pieces together, whether they deconstruct a little bit and then build, or they decide to just add a few pieces to what they have already, we'll wait and see. But I think Schwartz is a really nice hire, and having that head coaching experience on the defensive side is going to take some stress out of Stefanski as well.
Super quick, too, for fans who don't realize this, Jim Schwartz is part of the Bill Belichick coaching tree. Go check out the book. Bernie, Bill and the Browns by Vince McKee. We talked all about it. But seriously, no joke, he was. So Schwartz was on Belichick's staff when Belichick was the head coach here in Cleveland, amongst many, Nick Saban, amongst many others. So he has the mental capability. He's known as a tough guy. He almost got in a fist fight once with Jim Harbaugh after a game when Harbaugh was coaching the Niners. He's feisty. We'll see how he does. Welcome to Cleveland. Welcome back to Cleveland, Jim Schwartz.
And thank you, everybody, for watching again for this week. We'll be back next week.
Climatech is a full-service company. We install as well as service both residential and commercial products. We service furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, boilers, mini split systems, tankless hot water. We've got a good group of technicians that have been developed into a company culture that delivers a good degree of confidence to the customer and gives us a good product output. They want to take care of the customer and make sure that the customer is satisfied with their service. And when you've got non-stressed employees at your home, you're going to get a greater result from that service call or from that installation. Our customer needs, comfort, and health are of utmost importance, and we strive to provide that to every customer within their budget. As we continue to grow, we remain focused on maintaining our high level of customer satisfaction. When you hire Climatech, you're hiring a whole team of experts that have been in the business well over 80 years. If you're looking for a new install, if you're looking for just maintenance on your equipment, we are the company of your choice.